I'm so glad after everything that we went through last week with the Islamic Jihad to have today in our studio Major General Gershon Hacohen, retired IDF, an old friend of mine as well, to talk about everything with. I think it's absolutely important.
We still reservist and active.
Right, it's an active reservist in the IDF. I was just going to introduce you. You ruined everything. I was going to give this formal introduction, and then I was going to turn to you, but no. All right, anyway, thank you very much, Gershon, for being here. So let's just start it off. What just happened last week? How are we supposed to understand Islamic Jihad? Supposed to be second tier, little guy, shoots off 1,200 rockets, missiles. I mean, they even got to us in Gush Etzion last Friday. What is this? How are we supposed to look at this threat? What just happened? First of all, can you just sort of give me an explanation of what just went on here?
Actually, something very important happened, and in order to analyze what's the contribution of it to the security of Israel, we must, in a way, get free from all well-known cliches that are really evaporated everywhere. Everyone just speaking again and again about deterrence, about
Yeah, I want to talk to you about deterrence also, because it's become a word with no meaning at this point.
Actually, it's really a concept that we must make a kind of reframing,
right,
and to put it in that new context.
Okay, so before we do that, just explain what this secondary, not Hamas, terror organization in Gaza, when Hamas is the terror organization that controls Gaza.
Begin with, I listened to Ehud Olmert, claimed how come that such a small organization, terrorist organization, not important, can lead half of Israeli state to a siege for a week, a complete week.
Mm-hmm.
And another one from Mossad, the retired Mossad senior person, David Maidan, wrote in Facebook, how comes that a young Israeli state, less than 20 years since establishment, succeeded in 1967 to just destroy 3 military, well-equipped organizations, and now we cannot do the same with that small, what they called it in Hebrew, kikioni.
Yes, sort of a straw organization.
Yes, and it is absolutely a mistake to describe it like that. And I can even, in addition, must emphasize that they must present this small organization as almost nothing, due to their consistent, in a way, consistent dedication to bring Israel to another withdrawal. Because we are asking them, okay, look what happened with this idea that we are giving land, getting peace, how it was disconfirmed, all this approach, and we can just look what happened after this engagement and what is their reaction to that. It is due to the policy of Netanyahu that just strengthens them, because actually they are small, and if we will just come back to be IDF of 67, then it is nothing.
Okay, wait, so
means that actually,
what is it? What is it?
It is not at all a small threat.
Right, what is it?
And if you are trying to understand the Houthi in Yemen, for example, are they a small threat? Not at all. They are a strategic threat to Saudi Arabia, to the whole entrance to the Red Sea,
right,
to the Arab Sea, and they can launch missiles with long range, even coming to Israel.
Right.
They did yet not, but they can threat Israel. They are part of the Iranian complicated threat that they built surrounding Israel. in the whole region. And another very, very important point is that we must look upon it with careful analysis and respect. They are absolutely religious. They are guided by religious motivation. We must look back to the inspiration of Abdullah Azam, the one that led the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. He was a teacher of Bin Laden.
Mm-hmm.
He was there before Bin Laden. Bin Laden joined him. And Abdullah Azam, why I'm taking him so seriously? Because he really created a revolution in the Islamic world. He succeeded to do what Lawrence of Arabia tried to do and failed. Lawrence of Arabia tried to unite the whole Arab tribes by just unification of their nationality. Actually, he failed. At the end of the First World War, all tribes came back to just be single, isolated tribes, each one with his own.
Although Arab nationalism played a very important role.
Yes, not
Lebanon and
secular nationalism.
Right.
It failed. What Abdullah Azam...
It worked for a while. I mean, it worked in Egypt, it worked in Lebanon.
Yes, but it failed in 1967.
Okay.
Abdullah Azam succeeded in Afghanistan to bring religious warriors from all Arab Islamic region, including Indonesia, including North Africa, and they came not in order to struggle for their own home, for their own local tribal interest. They came in order to join jihad. Mm-hmm. And he himself was born in a village near Jenin, Silat al-Khawtiya. In 1967, he exiled to Jordan, participated with Fatah in the Black September against the king. And after that, he was a teacher in a university,
in Jordan.
In Jordan, after several years that they realized how dangerous he is, they just threw him away, and he went to Egypt, studied in Al-Azhar with the Sheikh al-Qardawi. Then he went to Saudi Arabia and also was immediately detected as a threat, removed to Afghanistan, and his main idea was that there in Afghanistan, he's building the new conditions to...
was this before or after the Soviet invasion in 1960?
Yes, he was against the Soviet...
But it was before... Was he in Afghanistan before the Soviet invasion, or
no,
did he come after?
Just to react to that.
Okay. So he built the Mujahideen.
He built the Mujahideen. He built the idea of a new jihad, of a modern jihad in the modern era. And why, again, he is so important? Because he succeeded to...
Abdullah Azam.
Right. To really bring back the idea of religious warriors dedicated to save the Islamic world, to bring the jihad with all power. All what happened later with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, all that, we cannot explain them and understand them without that contribution of Abdullah Azam. He died there. He was assassinated with his son. Yes, yet it is a question who really is responsible. Maybe the Americans. Yes, there are people claiming the Israelis, and maybe Bin Laden himself that wanted just to take his position. But his inspiration is very, very strong, and he always promised that what he succeeded to create there will be the key to come back to Palestine and to just succeed to destroy the Zionist.
But Islamic Jihad itself was established by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards in 1988.
Yes, but the Iranian inspiration coming together with jihadic,
The Sunni.
because they actually succeeded to create a re-establishment of a new Islam. It means actually Jerusalem, Al-Quds, is more important than Mecca. So battalions of jihadic Islam are called the Al-Aqsa, not Al-Aqsa, Al-Quds battalions. And others are speaking about Bet al-Maqdas,
The Beit
in the
Mikdash.
temple. So they are all dedicated to Jerusalem. The Iranians are dedicated to Jerusalem.
Right.
Khomeini declared the last Friday of Ramadan to be
Jerusalem Day.
Jerusalem. And Jerusalem actually succeeding to unite the Sunni and the Shia. It means that actually the radical Islamic warriors are united by just oriented to one main purpose, Jerusalem.
But okay, so 1 second. You're saying that the Houthis, who are against Saudi Arabia, I mean, they're against Mecca in that sense. They're this Iranian satellite that's being used to threaten, to attack Saudi Arabia, and they're not thinking so much about Jerusalem, at least not yet. You have the Saudis who, on the one hand, object and reject the central place that Jerusalem is now taking at their expense against Mecca and Medina. And they were trying for, at least since the Arab Spring, to walk away from the whole Palestinian issue as the central unifying force of the Arab world, and they have been walking back. They don't support Muslim Brotherhood. They supported Israel against Hamas in 2014 and subsequent years. But now they're trying to make a separate peace with Iran, mediated by the Chinese. You had a report yesterday that Bahrain, which was one of the warmest members of the Abraham Accords because they're so threatened by Iran because they have a Shiite majority, that they actually are expunging all of the pro-Israel entries that they placed in their school curriculum after the signing of the Abraham Accords. The UAE also refuses to host Netanyahu so far. And so they're all trying to figure out, they're saying our interests may have changed. We don't trust the United States to protect us. We're making inroads with Iran and try to cut a separate deal with them.
So, of course, if we are just analyzing the white paper of White House, it means the national
security
security, and the way it was just presented in the Pentagon, because they made their own paper according to the White House paper. The main orientation of United States oriented to China as a competitor. Even regarding Russia, they are expecting the Ukrainian and NATO, the Europeans, to succeed to overcome Russia by themselves with the United States support, and almost nothing is concentrated about the Middle East. The only emphasize regarding the Middle East that they are still committed to the two-state solution. It means that actually they are declaring that they have anymore no interest in the Middle East. Maybe they are thinking that they can keep it in stability as it is, and they can just act beyond what's going on here. And all what happened is due to the sensitivity of Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, all these actors, that they are getting the indications that they cannot trust the American involvement here in this region. So if we can really experience a kind of absence of the Americans, even though they are still acting in Syria a little bit, in North Iraq, in the ocean, the Arab Ocean, yet
the Persian Gulf. Yeah.
Yes, yet they are actually in public declaration telling each one, listen, you are not in our main interest.
Okay, so let's go back for a second to the Islamic Jihad, where you have all of these, your colleagues as retired generals from the IDF sort of saying, well, okay, we suck, right? We weren't able to defeat Islamic Jihad, this little bug, and we were able to defeat all of the Arab armies in 1967. This is pathetic. So then what is the Islamic Jihad? You're saying that it's sort of the avant-garde of the jihad. Why can't we beat it back? Still, why can't we beat it back? I mean, Netanyahu...
We can destroy them, but
why don't we?
In order to do that, we must invade Gaza. We cannot really destroy them by airstrike. The idea that we can do everything standoff without boots on the ground is an idea that was well entrenched in Israeli approach in order to support the withdrawals,
right?
The separation from the Palestinians, and like we can really separate ourselves. We cannot.
I wanted to talk about that in a second, but I'm just saying, Netanyahu always points to the surveys that show that the IDF is the 8th most powerful military in the world, or I saw another one last week. That is the 4th largest, which is crazy, but whatever. I mean, so they give all of these bombastic proclamations about the power of the IDF, and we certainly are packing a punch, but we aren't defeating Hamas. We aren't defeating Islamic Jihad. We aren't defeating Hezbollah. We aren't, we won't even take an axe to the Palestinian Authority. As soon as we reached a ceasefire, we started resupplying the terror state in Gaza. The first thing that happened yesterday morning, we're taping this on Monday, Sunday morning, the ceasefire goes into effect, and the first thing Israel does is it allows fuel trucks into Gaza. It's automatically, and Gazans are going to be allowed to work in Israel. It just goes on.
A really unique occasion, I think, in all history of human being, because no even one example in history that a group of people, we can call them a state, at least de facto, creating a war against another state. And not only that, we are not making a siege against them, all the electricity coming from Israel, all the water, a lot of the water, economical dependency absolutely upon Israel with workers, and money coming from Qatar, and this is also by permission of Israel, the oil coming from Israel, medical means coming from Israel. And
they're at war at it.
Actually, in Gaza, people are celebrating more hours of electricity in day than in Beirut.
Because of Israel.
Because of Israel.
And Benny Gantz wanted to give them electricity when he was defense minister, right? I mean, he said, we have to help the Lebanese. We don't have any problem with the Lebanese, even though it's controlled by Iran.
So, and at the end, we are still accused by keeping the Gaza people under a siege. This is abnormal in all considerations. But
all right. So what we just see last week?
Not just to criticize the government and criticize Netanyahu. I think he really achieved something.
There. What happened?
What he achieved. If we are trying to judge him according to ordinary wars, he really not began to even to dream to achieve an absolute victory against Hamas and this jihad group. Not at all. What he really directed himself to achieve, and it is something quite important, is to really create the message that we have beyond a military potential. Actually, it was well presented, this extraordinary military potential with intelligence dominance and great accuracy or precise attack with precise ammunition. This was a well done action. The very very deep decision to just enter to this act is very important. Why? Because if we are looking upon an operation like Entebbe, it is a story with a beginning and an absolute definite end.
Right.
Because when they are succeeding, the troops to release those who are captured,
the hostages.
Yes, they are coming back, and the day after is nothing. The day after is just a party.
Right.
Here, by entering to that decision-making, he's aware about the fact that he's entering to uncertainty. It is not just risk management. It is beyond risk management because he cannot control the risk, because he cannot really control the chain of events, whether he beginning with this jihadi group and it will just immediately come to be another campaign with Hamas and maybe Hezbollah also joining. He cannot control that. The very fact that he was brave enough to enter to it, this is a great message. Beyond that, the decision that could be immediately judged by the opposition that maybe he's illegitimate to do it because maybe he's doing that only for political purposes. The fact that he got at the end the opposition support, he got it by declaration by Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz, because they recognize that most of Israeli people supporting that decision of Netanyahu. So they just join it. They had no choice but to join it by supporting it. And that in itself is a huge message to tell them, if you already got the message that time is arrived to attack Israel, because according to the whole promises analyzed by religious prophets, that this time, 75 years of Israel, is a time of opportunity, and all what happened in the last 3 months with the protest and the protest of pilots, maybe they will not come to serve as reservists. It was a message that the Israeli capability to struggle, to be united in struggle, is still strong. Maybe think again whether at all it is your own time. Because here we must come to understand the practical reasoning of religious people like Islamic Jihad. In their practical reasoning, they are believing that God speaking to them in what's going on in reality. If reality presenting,
that makes them very realistic. I mean,
they are realistic.
I saw this newspaper headline, I think from 2014, that during Protective Edge, is that what it's called? That was in the Guardian, where was Hamas saying that God is protecting Israel, that God is making their missiles miss their targets or something like that. So that and on the one hand you could say that's crazy and everybody's laughing at them. God isn't.
No.
But it's not, because what they're doing is they're recognizing reality and they're giving an easily understandable explanation to a phenomenon they're experiencing. Whereas in the West, you have you're seeing more and more, and also in the Israeli left, you're seeing that national strategy is largely being based on denying reality, so that you get things like, well, we're going to just pivot away.
Oh, fantastic.
From Iran, or we're going to pivot away.
I like what you said.
Because they're not important, because we don't want to deal with them.
But here we are opening a seminar. Really, because, and I wrote about that, whether at all they are rational or not. Of course they are rational, and there are alternative forms to analyze rationality.
Okay.
For a Western people at the moment, they are just getting the feeling that their enemy bringing God to calculation, immediately it is to judge him as irrational. What they cannot understand, that rationality in this form of thinking is combined together with the trust of God and sensitivity to what's going on reality. It means, for example, the main question in Arabic asking at the morning, Shu al-Ahbar, it means what's new, because they're very deeply understanding of the whole cosmos is that every day is a new day. Every day new conditions. Even the sun of yesterday is not the same sun of today. So it means that by looking to reality, they can get a message from God. And if you are just facing a reality, that giving all messages that you are facing a very strong Israeli military capability, maybe if they are yet still united, maybe it is not your day.
But here's the question.
So they are waiting to a message that here, just now, take your opportunity.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of contradictory messages that we've been delivering to them. I mean, also, on the last night, I think it was Saturday night, right? You had these protesters in Tel Aviv with PLO flags. I mean, it's like they
are not at all beginning to understand Islamic form of thinking. And I came back.
But wait, I have a question first. So a lot of the analysis, like the very critical analysis of what just happened, they say, look, we're attributing Hamas's non-intervention on behalf of jihad, or Hezbollah's non-intervention on behalf of jihad as a function of what we did. But maybe that's not true. Maybe this was a probe. Maybe what they wanted to do was test what our capabilities are, our responses, and also exhaust, at least to a limited degree, our stores of Iron Dome batteries, so that we got rid of X number.
Like Noach in his ship storing back the dove, if it is coming back or not. It means that
there's land or there isn't.
The operation of jihad was a kind of reconnaissance.
Right.
To say
exactly
what's going on, what will be the reaction. So this action will be like...
No, not a probe that way. That this was a softening operation, that they're going in, they're exhausting Iron Dome missiles with 1,200 missiles from Islamic Jihad, which from their perspective is anyway disposable because who cares? And then the main force, after Israel has gotten rid of these missiles, and we don't know, the United States, their stores are down, they can't resupply Ukraine fast enough, they're not going to worry about us. All of their emergency stores in Israel have gone. They've all been taken to Ukraine. So we're going to get rid of them. The Israelis are going to sit back and say, look what a great mission we just completed, we just accomplished. And then, on Jerusalem Day, on Thursday, we're going to attack.
Absolutely. And
so that seems to be a counter interpretation of what you're saying, which is that they're looking and they're saying, geez, these Jews, they're actually serious. They're actually united.
You're right and I am right. It means that it is both. What it means, it is both. Again, we must...
Every day we have to come back and prove to them again that they shouldn't attack us.
We cannot really understand the way they are thinking in a kind that could be interpreted in our form of thinking as contradiction. For example, we can take Sheikh al-Qaradawi, that after 9/11 was considered to be persona non grata in United States because he was considered to be a supporter of bin Laden. Actually, Abdullah Azam studied with him, and he was considered to be supporter of radical Islamic, supporting terrorism.
He was.
In 2004, he was invited by Johnson, that was the mayor of London City, to be his guest, and he got
Boris Johnson.
Yes, this was just was prime minister, and after criticism, how come that you are inviting this terrorist supporter? They opened the discussion to a journalist party to present Sheikh al-Qaradawi, and then he presented himself as the one...
A press conference, not a journalist.
Yes. Yeah, the one that's supporting the Islamic tolerance. And the main issue is, what is the truth? Either he's lying or the truth.
So is he an Islamic moderate who just wants a loosey-goosey, nice jihad where everybody fulfills his inner struggle? Or is this, we want to kill the infidels jihad?
Exactly. And my answer is that he's both.
Right.
So it is absolutely different form of thinking. He's both. The same about what you just offered. It is true. And if we are trying to understand the strategical analysis in which they are thinking, and it is different from the way they led the military efforts in 1948, because that time they've been educated by estimation of situation according to British education and Western education, because they've been professional officers. They are thinking differently. They are thinking like that. We are sharing a dream to abolish, to destroy Israel. We are never coming to bring this dream to a negotiation. Nobody that is really true believer of Islam really come to negotiate about the dream. So the dream is permanent. What we have regarding the dream, we are taking it seriously, and we are rational. The fact that today, for example, we cannot come to do something in order to bring the dream to be a reality, it is due to circumstances. It means that they have a concept in Islam called a marhalat al-istidaf. It means stage of weakness. It means God not supporting me in the way I'm expecting. Today, the will of God is that I realize my weakness. It means what I have to do to be patient, what is called in Arabic, sabr. The same is exemplified in Ramadan. I want to eat a whole day. I'm in the desert, it is hot, and I'm really making a training of what is called sabr, the patient, to carry the sufferness with a dedication to succeed, to come to the end. And then I'm carrying the sufferness,
the suffering,
and then I am waiting to a new day. And then maybe tomorrow will come my day. So the dream will be fulfilled, if not today, tomorrow.
See, that's how, I mean, put it this way. There was, in the past, a Western civilization and a Western way of war and a Western way of life and also a Jewish Western way of life, which was also able to postpone gratification and to believe that if you work hard and you invest in the future and you play by the rules, whatever they are, that you are also going to be able to get to a point where you can, if not rest, then at least, you know, you've reached something, you've built something, you have a house, you have a family. What? It's linear. But today, you see, in the West, in Israeli, especially on the Israeli left, you have this impatience. You don't have that concept that if we, you know, like the old fable about the the grasshopper and the ants, right? And the ants were preparing for winter, and the grasshopper was not, and he was playing outside, and then he died, and they all survived. And here, if we're facing an enemy that will never be exhausted by the struggle defines him, and so every day he's getting up and he's checking to see where the Jews are. And so he can see, where Yair Lapid comes up to Netanyahu and he says, we support you. 5 minutes later, of course, he says it's time to end it. But he said that we support you. Benny Gantz said that he supports. But then he sees that the left continues out on Kaplan Street, blocking traffic, holding PLO flags, whatever. So, I mean, he may outlive us. You know what I mean? Like, if we can't, he's giving us a challenge that isn't just military, right? I mean, he's giving us a challenge that's spiritual, that's saying, okay, we're putting our civilization against your civilization. We're in jihad with you right now because we believe that you're the weaker horse. We believe that you're falling apart. You support the United States. The United States, has drag queens as admirals in the U.S. Navy. You're in trouble, and we're not. And so
I agree. Even if I can win the marathon and be absolutely exhausted after, they can continue after. So we will win, really. If we're looking upon the struggle as a permanent struggle. Therefore, the basic premises regarding the conflict are coming to really be wrong, because if we are judging the whole conflict from a Western cultural cluster of values, then we are coming to be wrong, even regarding jihad. People that are Westerns coming to Gaza, even workers coming from Gaza, I know one of them, working with a friend of mine. He's really a nice guy. And it is really...
Kardawi, he's moderate.
He is really...
and he doesn't support some struggle, except that he does.
Ironical anecdote. He's looking... he has a house called mashtela.
Oh, he has a greenhouse.
Yeah, and a lady came to buy a nice plant, and she asked him to help her to cover it with the nylon, and she was asked to bring her the knife, to bring him the knife to cut the nylon. So he's walking with her with a very, very sharp knife, and she's from Gaza, and no one really worried about it. So the main idea to analyze it from Western perspective is, look, most of them are ordinary person, most of them just expecting good life, deliver them good life, and then stability will come to the region.
Right, that's the whole concept of the economic peace.
This is what I'm always repeating, that example that in a meeting in the Pentagon with the first-star general responsible to the Mediterranean desk, he told me and the cadets of National Defense College, at the end, everyone in the world wants the same. And what everyone wants, kids are going to school in security, restaurants are open.
What George Bush said, that's what Barack Obama said, that's what Joe Biden said.
By speaking like that, not beginning to understand Bin Laden, you are not beginning to understand me and Ben Gurion, because if we just want kids going to school in security and restaurants, good restaurants, going open to midnight, why not just to struggle for that more than 100 years in Israel? Why not to come to New Jersey, to California? It is better, more stability we can get, more secured, we can get better life in a way. So if you are trying to understand my struggle by saying everyone wants the same, it is disconfirmed. It means by just asking if you are beginning to get understanding, a deep understanding. So what it means, just speaking again about jihad, they realize that from time of Muhammad, that most of people are ordinary. Most of people, including Islamic people, really expecting good life, really, really worried about our children, not want to die, but not everyone is going to jihad. But if, as an ordinary person, coming at morning to work to bring food to my family, I just gave a bed to someone going at morning to jihad, I get part of his contribution to jihad. It means it is combined. Most of people are not directly activists in the jihad, but they are really part of the whole system.
So, okay, we have systems too, and we're not bringing them to bear, and that goes to the other aspect, which is that yes, we do have an incredibly powerful military, such as it's obviously with limitations. Everybody has limitations on their power, but we have
Thanks God.
right, but we have a very strong military, and yet, when we look at an irregular force against us, and all the forces against us are in one way or another quite irregular. I mean, no ground forces, missile forces, the Air Force are drones. They're not fifth-generation fighter jets and all the rest of it. We're not facing an enemy that looks like us. So the reasonable thing to do if you wanted to win, seems to me, would be to say, okay, yeah, you have 150,000 missiles, you, Hezbollah, and we have really, really, really big bombs, and we're going to go in now. Why wait for you to attack us? And we're just going to crush you. And all of your missiles are going to go away, and we're just going to vaporize them because we can without nuclear weapons. We have the fighter power to go in and just blow it all up. Same thing with Hamas. I mean, everybody laughs, says, well, we're going to turn Gaza into a parking lot. Well, ostensibly we could, but we're not doing that. And instead of doing that,
legitimation. We need
why?
Why? Because
why do we? That was the next question. Because I mean, we could do. I could go back. All the bar talk, right? Oh, we're just going to do this. We're just going to. Yeah. Why don't we do that? Why? What is legitimacy here? Why do people like them who, have their 4-year-olds dancing around their rocket launchers so that we won't attack them, and they're trying to force us to make this critical moral distinction and endanger our 4-year-olds? Why are they more legitimate than we are? Why do we think that we need to protect their 4-year-olds before we protect our own? What happened to us?
it is a Jewish defect.
It's Jewish? I think it's Western also, but what?
I don't want to be anti-Semitic.
No, but I'm trying to
the
understand.
Jewish people are really leading the whole Western cultural defect.
But why don't? But then why bother? Then why do we claim that we're strong? Aren't we weaker?
We are under deep tension, and Ben-Gurion realized that because if you are just analyzing the main conflict in the Western culture regarding use of power, they are in a conflict regarding the use of power. Therefore, Putin is so important because he's challenging the West. They had a dream and believe that they can achieve this dream, that they can create paradise in real life. And what happened in Europe now is to bring even people in Denmark and Germany to ask again the question regarding paradise in real personal life. It is just an illusion. So the way in which, from the beginning of Zionism, we tried to build a kind of paradise guided by what is called Judeo-Christian or values. It means that we have a conflict about using power. And if we are even looking backward to the translation of the Bible by Luther to Germany, that I had no access to the first translation to Old Greek of the Bible. Words like Adonai Ish Milchama, a God is a Lord of war, he just bypassed them. Because if Lord, the God, is full of mercy, how we can call him a lord of war.
We were just talking about that in the Amidah, in the blessing that we say. We say that God is.
He's also and he also has revenge.
Right, it's also terrible. So how do you?
This is a Judaism. The biblical Judaism is perceived by Christian approach as a primitive version,
right,
regarding to the new version of the New Testament. So it is a new.
It's a new God.
Yeah,
he's all nice.
Therefore, they have the whole problems of what is called theodicia, to justify God, because He's absolutely Almighty God, and with all power. And yet there is so much evilness in the world. How we can justify this God if He's just good, full with mercy? So maybe He's not. This is a Western cultural dilemma, not Islamic dilemma, and not biblical dilemma. Once I told Professor David Hartman that he's so proud to belong to Judeo-Christian orientation. I told him that I realize that I'm belonging much more to Judeo-Islamic orientation, because the Bible is much closer to the Islamic orientation than to the Christian approach to life, to reality. And he said, of course you have a point, but absolutely I will not.
But my donors won't accept it. That's really what he wanted to say. He wanted to say, but my donors...
So actually we have a tension, unsolved tension, and it's making a strength and also weakness. And therefore we need legitimation, first of all, inner legitimation, and of course legitimation in support of Jewish people in the United States. And their main claims against the whole Zionistic project is, look, if the price in order to bring redemption is that we will be committed to be involved in an ongoing war, we don't want it.
Well, that's what we need to do, though, right? So we're in a set of paradox. We're in a quandary, right? Because you say that you need the legitimacy of X, Y, and Z, whoever they are at any particular moment. And in order to get it, you have to commit suicide because your enemy is unrelenting.
Fantastic. And here I have a point. The way that we can explain why that last operation was dedicated to attack only the Jihad Islamic Palestinian group, due to the fact that to attack them considered to be legitimate. So we and actually it happened in the last week. By analyzing the reaction in Europe and in United States, they could sustain it. Maybe because the Americans are doing the same to ISIS. They are killing the leaders of ISIS, so we are doing the same. How you can criticize us?
Well, they've done that for years. They've criticized us for doing the exact same thing that they do. They haven't had a problem with that. But here for a week, they gave us a carte blanche. I mean, they blocked the Security Council from having an anti-Israel decision, I think, last Tuesday.
Because it was managed like a brain microchirurgical surgery. Therefore, they could contain it.
But did we do anything? What did we accomplish vis-a-vis Hamas, vis-a-vis Hezbollah by doing this? And this gets back to the now empty, hollow term, deterrence.
Hard really to estimate it, absolutely, because deterrence, if we are analyzing the way Anwar Sadat was deterred by Israeli superiority, actually he was deterred before 1973, but we want deterrence to prevent him from going to war. What happened with the absolute Israeli superiority in air force and in armor capabilities was that he recognized his inferiority and built a very creative form of a campaign directed to the awareness that he is inferior regarding Israeli air superiority, and by that he brought a very successful campaign. It means instead of deter him from opening a war, he deterred him in such a way that compelled him to bring a very new creative idea of warfare.
Which crushed us.
Yes. So the deterrence was just a kind of acceleration for him for creativity.
And what about what happened last week? If you were, what's his name, Sarsour, right? The head of Hamas in Gaza, and you're looking at what just happened. What do you think he's looking at? What do you think he's thinking about when he looks at what happened last week?
Of course, he's contemplating that together with Mohammed Deif, his chief of staff.
Right.
They already realized in the last campaign 2 years ago, in May 2 years ago, that we achieved technology to destroy them in the tunnels underground. We achieved technology to detect them by trying to penetrate the Israeli territory in tunnels. They recognize that even their position in their war rooms, well protected in the tunnels, is dangerous.
Tunnels. Mm-hmm.
And after that, they are in a moment of reconsideration regarding their way to
attack us.
Not only to attack us, but even if they don't want to get a victory, just to lead a new attrition warfare, they are just in a moment that they are trying to find a new way to do it.
Well, they did in 2021. They used Israeli Arab citizens, right? I mean, that was what they did.
Absolutely.
They moved to a new direction.
It was very clever because at the moment that Israeli Chief of Staff Kochavi succeeded to bring artificial intelligence to overcome all difficulties and to find them everywhere, and it was an extraordinary achievement of a great technological-oriented warfare. He brought us back in Israeli cities, in Lod, in Jaffa,
in Arabo,
in Jerusalem, age of stone to the age of fire, just by lightening synagogues, by destroy apartments of Jews.
And businesses and cars.
And we couldn't recognize the whole threat because we've been so much oriented to the realization and to the Israeli self-appreciation of ourselves that we are at the moment of information age, not anymore industrial age. We're speaking about the
pogrom age.
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. So I guess the last question, because I don't want to keep you too long. All right, so we're in the age of pogroms. We're in the I don't know age of AI in terms of IDF capabilities, and we're fighting a Neanderthal force that uses torches and rocks and daggers to attack Israeli women and children and to ram families. Bring Kalashnikov rifles to massacre women and daughters while they're driving on the highway, of course. So, I mean, they got it all, too. They have rockets and mortars and missiles on the one hand, and then they have clubs, and they use them all in the relevant places for them, right? I mean, you use the right weapons in the right areas, but Israel has not... we may continue to innovate in our technology, but we haven't developed a proper response at all for the cavemen, right? I mean, so where do you think we are in this? They are changing all the time.
We are actually
So Ismail Sarsour, I think that's his name, or Ibrahim Sarsour and Mohammed Def sitting in Gaza, seeing what happened to Islamic Jihad. Did they learn anything that they didn't know about?
Maybe Sinwar as well.
Well, all of the whole Politburo of jihadists. So they're all sitting there trying. Did they learn anything new here? Did they not learn anything new? Did they learn anything helpful from our perspective?
The main question is what we must learn, yet we are under obstacle to say, just to stand by facing reality and to admit that we must get rid of our dreams. What it means, get rid from our dreams that tomorrow we will have a great peace here, stability, just with Israeli economical prosperity. We will share that prosperity with everyone. Yes, I'm living among Arabs in the Galil, and they are aware about the prosperity. They really
like it.
They like it. They want to share it. They are living in prosperity. They have a lot of money today. But speaking about the Jews in Israel, they are yet preventing themselves from their necessary awareness that we must come to a consciousness of struggle. It happened actually to Ben-Gurion in 1936. Before 1936, he made effort to speak with the Arab leaders, to come to a common denominator, to convince them that we are bringing prosperity to the region. Why not to share with us the whole activity? By entering to all this Arab rebellion in 1936 to 1939, he deeply came to the awareness that no chance, and what we must concentrate in order to achieve our dreams is to build, to plant, to build more settlements, to bring more Jews, not immigrants, olim.
Mm-hmm.
There is a huge difference between being an immigrant and being an ole of kibbutz galuyot, a
ingathering of exiles.
Yes, and it means that what is so necessary now, even more important than to build a national guard, it is necessary, but more important is to bring the Israeli people back to this awareness that we are under struggle and we are living in an era of struggle. And we must be united in that struggle. And of course, there are people that not fitting to them this idea, but the main problem is our politicians that they are just aware that they will not succeed to get elected victory in the election if they will come with my message.
You know, I'm working on a book on the Israeli left now, and I as I was driving in Jerusalem, I remembered that infamous statement that Ehud Olmert, who we started with and we can end with here, he said in June 2005, right before the expulsions from Gaza, he gave a speech to a group of American progressives from the Israeli Policy Forum. And he said to them famously, and you don't need to be reminded of this, he said, "We are tired of fighting. We are tired of being courageous. We are tired of winning. We are tired of defeating our enemies. We want to be able to live in an entirely different environment of relations with our enemies. But you don't get to decide that." I think that was 2 months before the expulsions from Gaza. He makes this statement, and I guess he may have just drunk his own Kool-Aid. He might have believed the lies, right? That Gaza was going to become Singapore. They were going to get our greenhouses, and they were going to be happy farmers, and everything was going to be fun.
Due to the fact that you participated with me in this engagement, you didn't share that war games that I participated with yet. It was the chief of staff, Boogie Alon. It was April 2005.
To try to play out what would happen.
And that war game, I told them, listen, go to Sharon, tell him that in all our war games, we are realizing that we will not have an adaptable response to the potential of threats that will emerge after the disengagement, because we will not have legitimacy to just bomb with artillery shells a refugee camp like Jabalia with 50,000 residents. We will not be able to carry
Let's turn Gaza into a party
every second week to an invasion to Bet Hanun, that it is 5 minutes from Ashkelon.
Right.
We will not be able, because we will have a lot of reasons why not now, why to delay it, why it is illegitimate now. So come to inform him that what he's doing is irresponsible regarding the future of Israel. Both of Chief of Staff, this one that was still Chief of Staff, Boogie, Yalon, and the next was Dan Harutz, warned me that I'm speaking absolutely by political ideas, that I'm not allowed to speak like that. I told them, listen, among all of you, I'm the only one speaking professionally regarding professional military attitude.
So it's interesting here. This quote is so sick, right? Because it is the exact response to the people snickering at the Hamas people in 2005, saying God is moving our missiles away from the Jews.
Caroline, we can just go ahead and speak. Therefore, it is really relevant what we is just contemplated before about Abdullah Azam. Why he is relevant to our discussion? Because at the moment we are struggling with enemies guided by religious motivation. They are trusting God. Therefore, they can be able to overcome permanent struggle. Even religious Jewish people, that I know a lot of them, are hesitating to bring the trust of God into the estimation of practical estimation.
It's not trust of God, though. I mean, it's faith. There's a difference.
Yeah,
it's not that God's going to save us. It's that, that the things that you can't explain to yourself.
The idea of what
give an explanation.
Even
as I go into the valley of death, I will.
And if you speak with a rational professor like Professor Leibovich, he will immediately warn us, listen, this is a valley of death, don't enter. It is irrational, irresponsible to enter. What David, that Psalms that written by him, telling us, there are moments in which the best rationality is to dare to enter to that thing.
I'm just going to end this with this. You with your response to this, but I got into trouble on Twitter when a couple of weeks ago, right at sort of the crunch time for the judicial reform before Netanyahu decided that he was going to just put it on the back burner and go to the president. So I gave the example of what happened with the soldiers in Golani and Wadi Saluki, right? So that they have a fireball coming at them, and the people on the radio were telling them to run away, and everybody who tried to run away from the fire was burned, and the only people who survived were the ones who ran through it. That was the only way, because it was this very rapidly advancing fire, and either you were going to be consumed by it or you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
And so everybody yelled at me, and and still today I see this. This was several weeks ago, and people are demonizing me because I was talking about running into fire, and I'm besmirching the memory of the fallen, which is exactly the opposite of what I. Anyway, the point is that, sometimes when you're faced with adverse situations, the only way that you can surpass them is to go through them, right? I mean, and here what we have in the West and what we're seeing in the general staff of the IDF and in our leftist elite here is this embrace of denialism as the basis for national strategy, because they don't want to believe the difficult things.
I agree, but therefore I'll come back to emphasize the difference between trust and faith. Why the Lubavitcher, the rabbi, gave dollar? He said that it is.
He gave the Rebbe from Lubavitch, in case you guys aren't aware, everybody who came to visit him, he gave him $1.
Yeah, and he said it is written, in God we trust. Why trust is better in his considerations than in God we believe or in God we have faith? Because faith and belief is a concept for theological seminar. For example, the book of Rabbi Soloveitchik, the person of faith, it is
The Lonely Man of Faith. The Lonely Man of Faith.
not really bringing me to take God to practical reasoning. A Moroccan Jewish lady just bringing sakrisar.
Who's putting her laundry out to dry.
Yes,
in the morning.
She's just detecting, looking to the sky, and the clouds are coming. She's speaking directly with God, telling him, please consider me. I work so hard. Please wait with the rain. This is not an example of faith. It is an example of trust. Therefore, I'm with that lady and not with Soloveitchik. I'm trusting God. He's taking a part in my practical reasoning.
Okay. All right. Well, I think so. If we are, should I sum it all up? I mean, I guess so. Last week we had an exchange of fire with people who are guided by reality, inspired by faith or trust in Allah, who believe that they are on the road of jihad towards the annihilation of Israel, and we had we came into confrontation with them, and everybody's telling themselves a story about what just happened, right? Is our story credible? What we're telling ourselves, we beat them back. This was important. This was real. This was a good
our leaders today cannot come to lead us only by excellency of management.
But they did a good job.
Yeah, they must come with spiritual leadership. They must tell a new story for the ongoing Jewish redemption here in that Holy Land.
All right. Well, I agree with you. What can we do? Because we're both people of faith, so we understand that you don't have to laugh at the Hamasnik who said
I'm
that.
really respecting them, really.
Because they saw a phenomenon, and maybe you don't like their explanation, but they at least were living in a world where they're paying attention to it. And what we're seeing on our side is much less willingness to even countenance what they're seeing. All right, well, Gershon, thank you so much for joining me. Major General Gershon Hacohen, my old friend. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys again next week for another incredibly important and interesting discussion here on the Caroline Glick Show. And don't forget to subscribe to all the channels, JNS, Caroline Glick Show, Rumble, YouTube, you name it. But be here next week. Take care.